What is up today, Dallas Cowboys fans, Cowboy Nation? Of course, Christmas just passed for everyone, so I hope you guys had a great holidays with yourself, your family, friends, all that good stuff, whatever. Also, heading to the new year, we do know, again, the Dallas Cowboys are still going to be, I guess we still have a couple games left in this regular season before the playoffs hits. Of course, we do know that is not too far away. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys did take a loss to the Miami Dolphins in the last game, another road game again for the Dallas Cowboys. Final score, Miami Dolphins 22, the Dallas Cowboys 20. This was obviously a game that we've seen, again, the Cowboys being able to take advantage of some of these opportunities that they have in these road games, especially these close games, and not being able to pull it out in the end. And obviously, when you're playing against, again, a team like the Miami Dolphins, they do have some weapons here and there. They also had to start dealing with some injuries this game against the Dallas Cowboys, but the Dallas Cowboys still had potential and had opportunities to take advantage of this game and pull it out, but did not make the proper plays at the right time. And obviously, we can get into it a little bit, but I don't even want to hamper or harp on this game. I mean, obviously, because again, the Cowboys still have a couple games left in this regular season. I'm kind of now at the point of being a fan right now, where I'm not going to say my confidence has waned in the Dallas Cowboys overall as a franchise or as a team. But I will say there are kind of some unsettling things I'm starting to see from this team over the last few weeks, I'll say more so. But over the last couple weeks, obviously a game against the Buffalo Bills, of course, the Dallas Cowboys did not get the job done. And then I guess you would say returning to the same issues, some of the same issues, I will say, with the Miami Dolphins game. Again, it was a close game, but the Cowboys had opportunities, and some of these issues, I'm going to start with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is now starting to show he is starting to revert back to some of those old issues, I will say, just because, again, it's about not being decisive offensively. What we're going to do as a play caller, what we're going to do as a head coach in general, but especially when you're taking on the duties and the responsibility of running this team, again, as a play caller, which Mike McCarthy is showing that he's doing this year, we're going to have to get rid of those old nasty habits, whether it comes to, again, just inconsistency offensively, not having a solid game plan. It seems that you're going to be able to, continue to flow through with for the entirety of the game, and also just not being able to make adjustments when the game calls for it. I'm the biggest believer in you can come into the game with any game plan. You can come into any game with any system or scheme in place that you kind of built up over the last week or so when you're coming to game planning for that game that's about to happen. But the number one thing is being able to adjust. The best coaches, the best offensive play callers, the best defensive play callers, just coaching in general, like I said, it's all about adjusting. If you cannot adjust when the game calls for it, you're always going to find yourself behind the gun. Again, and especially with the Dallas Cowboys, we have a small margin of error because we do know the Philadelphia Eagles in this division did somehow pull out a win against the New York Giants, a game that they probably could have lost, I guess with a little bit more time maybe on the clock. But the Philadelphia Eagles did pull off another close win. So the Cowboys, again, are now finding themselves behind it even a little bit more going to the last 2 weeks of the season. Everything is not in our hands pretty much at this point anymore. You're going to need a little bit more help from the Philadelphia Eagles, or obviously the Arizona Cardinals, I believe they face, and the New York Giants coming up as well. The Dallas Cowboys are going to need a little bit of help and also take care of business themselves, because we do know the next game for the Dallas Cowboys will be against the Detroit Lions. But let's talk about the Miami Dolphins game just a little bit. This is a game where we saw Dak Prescott throw for 20 for 32, 62.5% completion percentage. I believe about 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. This was a game we saw Dak Prescott again, and I'm going to say it exactly as direct as possible. Offensive line has been not playing well at all. Let's call it what it is. At this point, again, whether it's due to injuries, whether it's due to just inconsistency, a guy's just not being able to stay on the field. Obviously, we've seen the process the Dallas Cowboys have gone through this season when it comes to Tyron Smith and just trying to keep him healthy, and pretty much not letting him practice at certain points of this week. Tyron Smith, that back injury, again, has started to flare up as time has gone on, and I'm going to say it as simple as this. It's time for the Dallas Cowboys to look into the future and figure out what we're going to do with the left tackle position. I love Tyron Smith. I love everything he's done for the Dallas Cowboys in general. All the years he's been here, all Pro Bowl level, future Hall of Famer. We know exactly everything Tyron Smith has done. But at this point, you cannot consistently rely on Tyron Smith just because you don't know when he's going to be out there. And there's no way, especially as talking as a team in general, but as an offensive line, you're going to be able to, consistently keep anything just remaining again on the same page and same track when you're constantly pulling guys and pushing them out and putting new guys in. We've seen TJ Bass have to come in a little bit for Zach Martin, dealing with a little bit of an injury. We've seen Chuma Edoga. This past game against the Miami Dolphins was absolutely terrible. there were so many plays again and I was going into the same concept where I'm talking about a Dak Prescott, his statistics in this game. To me, we can kind of get into it. We have to win the big games. Can Dak Prescott get us these big wins, important wins that we need? Dak Prescott has shown many times, especially in this Dolphins game, I'm going to say, especially when you're talking about, again, some of the issues I felt that play calling could have alleviated some of it a little bit. But this offensive line has not played well. Chuma Edoga had a terrible game. We saw so many just blatant misses, not even choosing or trying to pick up guys. And Dak Prescott having to make so many plays with his legs, and you cannot consistently maintain drives when you're having to rely on a guy just continuing to use his legs to make plays reliably. Dak Prescott is not a Lamar Jackson type player where he's the super elusive guy where you can kind of just keep the chains rolling themselves. Dak Prescott, sometimes, again, we've seen him. He has the ability to throw on the run. He has the ability to get out of the pocket and make some of these plays. We saw exactly what happened in the game. Again, obviously, CeeDee Lamb was a big focal point of the offense early on in the game, and it seemed that was going to be, a wave that we continued to ride throughout the remainder of the game. That was not the case. I'll get into that in a second. But Dak Prescott has had to make plays with his legs many times and just continue to keep this offense rolling and not getting behind the chains, in which, again, this offensive line has not played well. Tyler Smith has been a bright spot. I'll give him that again. Second year in the league. He's still improving. He's still trying to get himself, solidified in the NFL as a real offensive line. We talk from the guard position. We do know Zach Martin is still a very capable player, dealing with a few bang-ups now again, but he's still a very capable player. Terrence Steele has had a so up and down of a season, and I'm going to say, to me personally, in my opinion, way more down than up, because again, obviously he is dealing with that come back from the ACL injury. And also getting that extension, you're expecting guys like that to be able to come in and hold their weight. And Terrence Steele, in my opinion, has not done that this year as well. So you're going to look around and say a guy like Tyler Biadasz maybe has been somewhat, I guess you want to say solid. It's nothing special, because Tyler Biadasz is what he is at this point. He's a solid player. Again, a guy that you can have on a successful team. But again, he's not the best center in the league by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're looking at this offensive line as a whole, you're going to say this offseason, the draft, again, I'm going to stay in the moment. We still have some things that the Dallas Cowboys could potentially do this year. So I don't want to get too much into it, but this off season is going to be very important to building the future of this offensive line. Because if you're going to let Dak Prescott, again, now he's still in year 8. If you're going to say that Dak Prescott is your franchise quarterback, if you choose to go another direction, whatever it is, you're going to have to be able to protect him. You're going to have to be able to get a solid group of 5 guys that can get this running game on track. And I at no point look at the running game as if it's anything that's going to be, something we're going to just hitch our horse to and ride that into some playoff wins. But you want to be able to be at least sustainable, at least be able to be consistent when it comes to the running game. And our offensive line as a whole, it starts there. That's where our offense is going to have some of the biggest issues. They're going to continue to have some of the issues, and potentially could be a problem when you're talking about facing some of these better front sevens that some of these defenses in the playoffs may have. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to get this thing shored up. Dak Prescott, he did take a little bit of flack. Of course, you obviously know when the Dallas Cowboys do not win a game, everybody's watching, everybody's waiting to see exactly how it falls apart. But Dak Prescott himself, he did everything that he could. We're talking about the last drive of the game for the Cowboys offensively, taking us down the field and making, again, some mistakes, I'm guessing you're going to say, that kind of kept putting us, a little bit behind it. But Dak Prescott caps off the final Cowboys offensive drive with the touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks, a guy that I'm going to say, again, has stepped up majorly and kind of given us over this last couple months what we kind of expected from him from the offseason going into the regular season. And he's now starting to, again, show that he is a solid player, especially at the small size that he is. This is where I'm going to get into what I feel Mike McCarthy has been an issue for this team. And again, in this Dolphins game, it showed a lot. So again, you do have some plays. And again, I'm still a guy, I believe in Dak Prescott going forward, because again, at the end of the day, this is a team effort. Football is the ultimate team sport. Not one guy is ever going to be able to get it done. You can be the best quarterback, you can be the best receiver, the best running back, whatever it is. You need somebody else to be able to do their job for you to be able to do yours to the best of your ability. So if you're a Cowboys fan that's starting to waver on Dak Prescott, I fully understand, just for the simple fact you're more upset. I feel like a lot of fans on that the side of the spectrum are more so irritated just at the team's lack of success overall. And now you're looking at Dak Prescott again in year 8. And the Cowboys have not had one of those long postseason runs, even getting to a conference championship game that some people, again, are definitely just starving for at this point. So Dak Prescott is a part of it. Let's be clear. I don't think anybody's ever going to be free from blame. Dak Prescott missed some I guess you want to say some shots in this game against the Dolphins. So I'm not saying he was even perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like we still had some opportunities to take advantage of some of the Miami Dolphins weaknesses they were showing in this game, and we just did not overall. One of the major issues in this game, obviously, the first drive for the Dallas Cowboys is, again, it's an opportunity to show pretty much, again, some of the issues the Dallas Cowboys continue to just beat themselves with on the road. Again, you're talking about good teams, and as in the Miami Dolphins, they're now 11-4 Miami Dolphins. The Dallas Cowboys sitting at 10-5. We're now going to say the Cowboys are not too far off from these teams. That's I guess you want to say the most annoying and irritating thing for me, especially as a Cowboys fan. You're looking at just the process of what it takes to be a good team. That's being consistent. And obviously in that first drive for the Dallas Cowboys, take it all the way down the field. We get into a perfect situation to score. Tony Pollard, I'm going to say this is the play of the game. And I'm not even saying play in the game as in one of those people is just a black and white type situation. There are many things in this game that, again, the Dallas Cowboys, I guess you want to say, put this team just in compromising positions. But this was kind of like the start of it. It's one of those plays where, again, it's like kind of those, when you see the Dallas Cowboys are playing to the best of their ability, it's usually things are just rolling. And again, I'm going to say this game started the Dallas Cowboys winning the coin toss and choosing to receive, which means you have full confidence in your offense. You're going to hope that you're trying to kick the tires and hopefully be able to come out more aggressive so that you can help your defense out a little bit against an offense that does have weapons coming to the game with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa has played well. Raheem Mostert. And again, they had Devin Achane, I believe, came back for the Dolphins in this game as well. So they do have some weapons. So if you're taking that advantage, you're trying to just go out there and score first, knowing you're winning the toss, but choosing to not defer, meaning you will not get the ball in the second half. You have got to take advantage of your first opportunity on the offensive end. The Dallas Cowboys drove the ball all the way down. Tony Pollard, perfect situation to get into the end zone. I believe it was a quick toss route out or something like that. Tony Pollard does not get into the end zone. I'm not sure how. He has the angle, has the momentum, and for some reason he cuts it back inside instead of kind of just continuing on to take the ball out to the pylon and just finding his way into the end zone, because that would have been huge for the Cowboys. We're talking about setting things up perfectly. You're now sitting up 7-0, and that's going to help out because now you're going to put pressure on a guy like Tua Tagovailoa to come out and perform, because you do know when the Cowboys start rolling, that's when things get out of hand, especially because, again, you go out there and score a touchdown on that first drive, then you're going to be able to let your defense just pin their ears back, because you do know, as much as the Dolphins like to run the ball situationally, and they have made some plays in the running game this year, let's be clear about that, they still look to push the ball down the field a little bit because, again, Tua Tagovailoa almost at 4,000 yards passing. And, again, this is not an offense that's shy about throwing the ball at all. We're talking about Mike McDaniels calling plays. The Cowboys get down there. Tony Pollard could not get into the end zone somehow, so you have to snap it again. That's a defensive motto. Make them snap it again. You hand the ball off to Hunter Lipke, a guy that I saw being used a lot. We all saw being used a lot in this game in short yard situations. And I feel like this was a perfect opportunity to continue to see what he could potentially be for you in the future and going forward. But also, I will say some of these major issues came from the fact that he is not very comfortable in that role yet. And you can tell because, again, I will put that on Mike McCarthy because I said all year long, Hunter Lipke should be one of those guys that you're looking at to be your goal line guy. And I guess you want to say, in addition to a guy like Rico Dowdle with the hard running style that he employs. Tony Pollard, what we expected from Tony Pollard this year is not exactly what we have gotten. And obviously, some of it could have been just getting back from that injury he sustained in the playoff game against the 49ers, and then trying to get yourself comfortable again. And he has run harder, I'll say, over the last month and a half, I'll say. But still, Tony Pollard is not giving everything that we feel like he could be giving, because when you're not having, I guess, I want to say the season that he was potentially probably expecting from himself, you're going to still have to be able to take advantage of opportunities. And not finding his way into the end zone was big. Snapped it again. The exchange, I believe Dak Prescott ended up getting credited with the fumble, but against a handoff to Hunter Lipke. Hunter Lipke, the exchange is not placed down properly again, and here we go. Hunter Lipke does not, I guess you want to say, grab the ball, take the ball from Dak Prescott again. This is very precise. You're talking about in the red zone. One bad snap, a second of bad decision making, and that can continue. I guess you want to say completely ruin your drive offensively. That's exactly what happened. Hunter Lipke, it ends up being a fumble. The Miami Dolphins recover, take it down, and for the rest of the game, it seemed like the Cowboys just could not put it behind them. Whenever we start to have a big play, all of a sudden you see a mistake. All of a sudden you see a holding penalty. And officiating in this game was so up and down. It was a roller coaster ride. You can't get some obvious calls, but then some of the ticky-tack calls are being called. I believe Dak Prescott gets a roughing the passer call for him, again, that Miami Dolphins fans didn't really like. Then all of a sudden, Micah Parsons gets called for one later on in the game where, again, it was a situation where I didn't even see there's anything Micah Parsons himself could have done. And obviously, then Micah Parsons comes out after the game and says the official charges him with the roughing the passer penalty, because he believed Micah's intent was to hurt the quarterback. It didn't make any sense. So again, this is one of those games you don't want to get into that. So now let's just focus on what exactly the Dallas Cowboys can handle themselves. And like I say, Mike McCarthy, to me, has been inconsistent over the last few games. And I'm going to say even more so in the sense of, obviously, you pulled out a win against the Seattle Seahawks. But you're going to see the Dallas Cowboys have to be consistent when it comes to the offensive play calling, because that's our bread and butter at this point. The defense is not anything I'm going to say that we can hitch our horse to anymore. We have some obvious playmakers, but I don't believe we can just go into games and say, even though the Dallas Cowboys defense did hold that powerful Miami Dolphins defense, offense, only 22 points on the road, it was still a showing. I can't say that I feel comfortable with just hitching our horse to our defense and saying we're going to go there and then just see what our offense gives off of that. So you're going to have to continue to be consistent. And I will say one of the bigger issues in this game came, in my opinion, was Mike McCarthy was not, I guess you want to say, coming in with a game plan that was going to be sustainable. And if he didn't see, well, I guess what we came into the game wanting to do was going to be working, it's time to switch it up. I'll kind of go back to the way that the offense was running against the New York Jets. That's probably the best way I'm going to be able to I guess you want to say, compare it to anything. A team with heavy playmakers offense on the defensive end. They have some guys that can make plays. Obviously, it's speaking about the New York Jets, and they employed a lot of zone in that game. What we did offensively was used a lot of quick game, was we pretty much took advantage of those open holes that you're going to find in zone. Just get the ball into your playmakers' hands, let them get out in the open field, and I guess you want to say, continue to keep drives going. Sometimes it's best to take 6-7 yards instead of trying to get the 25-yard hit every single time. It's okay to take 6-7 yards every single time and just drive yourself and sustain some of these longer drives until you find the end zone. And I don't feel like Mike McCarthy stuck with that game plan this game the way he should have. We did it, I guess you want to say, later on in the game when you saw the Cowboys, the game starting to slip away, and now you're having to be a little more urgent. You saw some up-tempo being used. So I'm going to say this is a game we're going to see. We obviously saw, and I'll speak on this really quick. CeeDee Lamb, when he has the ball in his hands, I believe in the first quarter, he ends up having 4 catches by 93 yards and a touchdown early on. And in my mind, I'm thinking this is going to be a CeeDee Lamb game. He's going to have about 12, 13 catches. He might have about 200 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns. We did not continue to beat that drum, and that is one of the major issues Mike McCarthy is going to have to get himself under control with. You have playmakers. This is the later part of the season. We're not saving anything anymore. This is not the period of the season where you're trying to hold back anything. You're not trying to save plays for the playoffs or anything at this point. It's all about positioning. We were still in a running for possibly winning the division. Now, again, we really need some help. Although it was a loss against an AFC team, Mike McCarthy is going to have to show that he is not scared to get the ball to his weapons and continue to do that throughout a game until the other team submits. Jake Ferguson, you didn't see him really get involved until later on. Like I said, where the game is starting to be more urgent now. The offense has to be a little bit more urgent. Ends up with about 4 catches, 45 yards. We started to use the screen game a little bit more with Jake Ferguson later on. Brandon Cooks only has about 2 catches, 14 yards. Like I said, but that late touchdown catch he does have continues to just show, again, he is a weapon. So Mike McCarthy, this is the perfect time for him to go look in the mirror, figure out what exactly has gone wrong these last couple weeks, I'll say, and try to get back on track, because we cannot just be a home team, because you do know in the playoffs, the Dallas Cowboys are not going to have the number 1 seed. More than likely, again, it has to be some crazy miracles over this last couple weeks, but I don't see us having a number 1 seed. I potentially see us, again, just being locked into that 5th seed right now. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to show themselves, and not even just everybody else, but show themselves they can win on the road against good teams and not be scared of making, again, just these untimely errors that we've kind of seen ourselves continue to make as time has gone on. We're starting to see a lot of people start to sour a little bit on Dan Quinn's, I guess, his play style when it comes to defensive calling the game. My biggest issue, I say, with Dan Quinn is sometimes he trusts in his guys too much, which that's always a good thing from a defensive coordinator, but defensive play caller. You always want to be able to trust in your guys, because, again, that's what allows simple playmakers like Micah Parsons, these guys, which we finally got to see being moved around a little bit. He wasn't just set up on that edge as we've become accustomed to. He's moving around at the linebacker. He's at the Mike position a little bit and kind of moving around a little in this game. Dan Quinn, sometimes he will get to the level of super trusting your guys to the point where sometimes it can be detrimental. Obviously, we saw sometimes in this game, Tyreek Hill did not have a big crazy game until he started to get a little bit at the end. I believe 9 catches, 99 yards he ends up with, but he was pretty much quiet for the beginning of the game. Jalen Waddle has a big catch, 1 catch for 50 yards. I believe he ends up banged up and leaves the game and does not return. This is just one of those situations where Dan Quinn, I'll say, he called a defense that was good enough to win us this game, but there were still some spots, although only giving up 22 points to a powerful offense as the Miami Dolphins have. There were some instances where, again, I felt he was too conservative. It's like you have to find that fine line for Dan Quinn, from overly aggressive to too conservative. I'm not a fan of the way we've again, you do know the speed the Miami Dolphins have at the receiver position, but I'm not a fan of pretty much, it'll be 3rd and 4 or 4 or 5 yards until the first down, and all of a sudden you see our DBs are backed up by 5, 6, 7 yards off. I can stand defense like that because, again, if we're playing this aggressive type defense in pass rush, and we know Dan Quinn loves stunts, he loves sending extra blitzers every now and then, you're going to be able to say, or just getting pressure with some of the guys that we do have. DeMarcus Lawrence, a guy that I feel like had a really good game individually. Obviously, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but he had a good game individually. When you have guys that get after the quarterback, you don't have to sag off so much. You do know obviously you have Deron Bland. He's a guy that can, I guess, take the ball away from the offense, obviously. But he does have still some things to learn when it comes to just being able to shadow and phase receivers sometimes, so he can find himself in a little bit of trouble. Similar, I guess you want to say, kind of, in a way, we kind of saw a young Trayvon Diggs at certain points find issues. Again, they start hitting these double moves or just using your aggressiveness against you. Stephon Gilmore is still a very capable player, even at his age. But again, we're going to start to see where some of these issues are arising, just because, again, obviously injuries happen and people have to start doing things. I guess maybe there wasn't their original role, so now you're still kind of learning on the fly. We see Marquise Bell being moved around to the linebacker position a little bit more. But the Cowboys, I say our biggest thing defensively is going to be Dan Quinn just finding that perfect middle ground of being aggressive and being conservative. Because, again, I feel like at some point we're too aggressive, sometimes we're too conservative, and sometimes that's what, I guess, keeps these drives going for the offense on the other side of the ball. So we are pretty much, this was just a game, again, just missed opportunities all around. The last drive for the Cowboys, obviously we had a potential chance to just win this game outright. Again, some of these situations, again, you see Mike McCarthy as the game goes on, not choosing to not kick field goals when you do have a weapon like Brandon Aubrey, who did make some kicks in this game, again, that were solid just to keep us in the mix. But like I said, Mike McCarthy, again, choosing to elect to go for it on lots of opportunities where we could probably just take the field goal, and it probably would have maybe ended up being a win. It's hard to do that. Again, hindsight's always 20/20, but we're going to have to get our offensive play calling and get our defensive play calling on somewhat of the same page, because of the last couple weeks, and I'm going to say a few weeks, because we put up 41 points against the Seahawks. But when you look at it, we still gave up 35, and it wasn't the cleanest game also itself. So it just ended up being a shootout type situation. So I'll say over the last few games, our offense and defense are going to have to somewhat get on the same page, because either one, over the last few weeks, like I said, one has been up, one's down at certain points of games, and that's where the Cowboys are starting to see some real inconsistency. So we cannot rely on solely just our offense being the one to lead the show. We can't, I guess you want to say, rely on, especially just our defense being the one to show to I guess, lead the show, because they have shown some inconsistencies in a little bit. Especially when it comes to our pass coverage, maybe it's due to injuries or whatever, things like that. But the Cowboys still have some things to get under check out and get under control going to these last 2 weeks of the season, and we'll see if they can do those. And I said the last 3 weeks, but obviously I meant the last 3 out of the 4 weeks, because 3 weeks ago, I believe, 3 games ago, the Dallas Cowboys completely dominated the Philadelphia Eagles at home, obviously 33-13. So the week before then, I was speaking about 41-35 to win against the Seattle Seahawks. So the Cowboys, again, just have to show more consistency, and I feel like this team still has some potential. Again, I'm not saying I have not lost a little confidence in this team going forward, but again, I still believe that they do have the pieces to make some noise. It's just about actually doing it, because nobody wants to hear excuses at this point. Obviously, Brandon Aubrey, again, also had another great game, 2 for 2 on field goals, like I said. I believe now sitting at 33 for 33 on the season. This should obviously be your all-pro kicker or Pro Bowl kicker of this season. Brandon Aubrey has been a shining light on the special teams this year. Again, lots of questions about him in training camp and preseason and all that. So again, just seeing the levels that he's I guess, brought his game up to. And just the consistency has been big and major for this team because we have needed every single point lately this season, especially we're talking about some of these close battles. If it's not a blowout, we've been in some close games, so you're needing a guy like Brandon Aubrey to keep this, I guess, just get some points on the board whenever we can find the opportunities for that. The Dallas Cowboys, again, will be facing off against the Detroit Lions next, so this is going to be a Saturday game, I believe. The Dallas Cowboys are not going to be able to make any excuses. The Detroit Lions clinched the NFC North last game, so they could still be riding on that wave. Or you could find, I guess you want to say, a potential opportunity for the Cowboys now, again, playing at home for the final time this season to be able to, I guess, show that they can just beat a good team in general. Obviously, the question is going to still be talked about, can they win on the road? But if you're able to maybe take advantage of a team like Jared Goff, led by Jared Goff, you do know you still, again, have some capable playmakers on this team. But it's about just giving full effort. And again, that comes from the coaching staff as well for an entire game, not here and there, not certain quarters. Because again, going back to CeeDee Lamb, not touching the ball after the first quarter, I don't believe he touched the ball again or was even targeted for about 2.5 quarters, something like that. So we're going to say you have just got to show that you're going to actually do it. We know the Dallas Cowboys are always going to be a part of the joke when we're not winning. And again, when we do win, it's not always going to be met with anything like as real confidence in the team from the national media. So just continue to show that you are going to be able to be one of those real contending teams in the playoffs, because at the end of the day, results are all that matter. The talking, the guys who having the podcast, whatever the conversation is, it doesn't matter. Show some results at the end of the day. The Dallas Cowboys still have some moves to make, because obviously, although the season hasn't gone the way we projected and hoped that it would over these last couple games, more so kind of putting more of the winning the division in question. The Dallas Cowboys do know that we do have the division locked up at this point, so we will at least be one of those teams being able to compete for the road, for the, I guess you want to say, for the trophy at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, that's always what you're looking for. You're looking to be one of those final teams in the tournament, which is the playoffs. So the Dallas Cowboys, again, will be facing off against the Detroit Lions on Saturday. I believe it'll be a night game, so there's not much to talk about. It is what it is. The Dallas Cowboys now sitting at 10-5. No questions asked, and nothing else to be asked about it other than just going out in the field and making the plays. Because at the end of the day, you do know, again, now you're chasing the Philadelphia Eagles. You're hoping for a loss for them against the Arizona Cardinals, the New York Giants, who will now be starting Tyrod Taylor, I heard, going forward. So we'll see exactly what's going to happen with all that. But at the end of the day, Dallas Cowboys have to focus on their business. Get out there, make some plays, pull out 2 wins to end this season, because I don't see this team being able now to sit against a team like the Washington Commanders, who will now be benching Sam Howell and bringing in Jacoby Brissett. I don't see the Cowboys being able to do that, because I don't feel like we have really played well over the last couple weeks. So you're going to have to try to go into the postseason with having, again, a little bit of a, I guess you want to have some sort of momentum, I'll say, because again, we do know, obviously, when you're playing against in the playoffs, even if you're facing off against a team potentially like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we're looking to win the NFC South, there are gonna be some games that you're going to just have to make the big play when it's time. Whether it's, again, a team you think you're better than. We've shown the Cowboys, again, are gonna have to show that they can win on the road. So, as always, I appreciate you guys going forward. You guys are amazing. Go ahead and keep liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing your opinions with me, because that's what this channel is about. I want to know what you guys think, more so than myself. So I appreciate you guys for all the support. I hope you guys had a great holidays, Christmas with yourself, your friends, your family once again, and going into the new year. I appreciate you guys as always. And once again, go Cowboys.